Henry, our universities don't seem to be places where there can be the contest of ideas and the debate and that they used to be. There's a homogeneity in what is expected in responses in all faculties, but law is one of them. We don't have the debate. We don't have the credit to people who develop their arguments for either side of a particular conundrum. That's where we are losing out in tertiary education, it seems, compared to 40, 50 years ago when many of us were there.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I was looking at a nice little volume that came out recently from Connor Court that has the collected essays of Frank Knoffelmacher, who was an essayist and university professor, but was an essayist, wrote a lot in Quadrant, and my dear former editor, Rebecca Weisser, was my editor at The Australian, is now the editor of Quadrant and has done me the honour of coming tonight. But, and one of the most interesting, but one would think one of the most viewed from today's perspective, if you were a young person, university, curious aspect of these essays of Frank Knoffelmacher is that several of them were written when he was asked to present the case for the Vietnam War, for Australia's engagement in Vietnam at university teach-ins. So here were teach-ins organized by people who were rabidly against the war in Vietnam, rightly or wrongly. Okay? And yet they still felt, oh well, we really should get someone who can put the other side. And Frank, never being shy of a fight, relished it. He relished it. He relished the fact that they put the tough questions, that they really tried to put him on the spot, and that he had to show his wits, and they had to show their wits, because he was pretty bloody good at it. Okay? Now, can you imagine at any of these protests, the protesters inviting a Zionist to put the case for Israel? One only needs to ask the question to know the answer. And that, to my mind, is such a searing indictment of what has happened to our intellectual climate generally. And I don't only blame the universities, our intellectual climate generally. That it's enough, if I had hair, it would be enough to make me lose it.
It's the victims of that would not just be Zionists, Jews in Australia. The victims would be generations of other Australians who would lose the mental ability to challenge ideas and winnow out what truth is by the contest of ideas. It's getting rid of that contest of ideas that's most terrifying, I think.
It's terrifying because it's not only the universities. Look, let me tell you, if you go to yeshiva, which is a sort of Jewish institution, you don't learn much about Christianity. And that, I admit, is a defect. Right? You learn something, you don't learn enough. However, you learn to inquire. Right? Because the whole thing is about arguing. What the heck does this mean? Why would anyone say anything so silly? Right? And then you have to come up with some ingenious explanation of why the Talmudic sages decided that if a person has leprosy, it matters whether they enter the room on the right side or the left. You say, why does it matter? Well, your point is to come up with an answer for why it could matter. And then someone else will tell you why you're a schmuck. And that's what counts. So if it was just the universities, well then, that would be all right. The problem is that it spreads from the universities. You go to departments of state, which were once great departments, and they were great departments because people argued, what should we be doing? What is the right approach? And you'd have vigorous debate. Instead, now they argue about, what does the minister think?
Yeah.
What does the minister think? Let's figure out what the minister thinks. And that's a pity. But it's worse than a pity. Because it's a tragedy. Because if you do that, you'll never do what's good for the country. Okay? And, you know, Australia is blessed. It's a very enjoyable lifestyle. We're blessed with natural resources. It's a gorgeous place. There's lots of great strengths. So we have a choice. We can be a land of lotus eaters. Or we can be a land of thinkers and reflectors and try to make the best of what good Lord in His wisdom has given us.